She'd be saying how grateful she was for how the community embraced her when they got here.
Correct.
Because if it wasn't for all the people that pitched in and helped or funded in some capacity, it would have never happened.
Oh, once I lived in Cottonwood and owned a little farm. When they called me down to Dixie, it caused me much alarm. To hoe the cane and cotton, I right away must go. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know.
Welcome to Not Forgotten, a podcast brought to you by the Doc Booth Foundation and hosted by noted writer Lyman Hafen, who has chronicled the stories, culture, and character of Utah's Dixie for more than 40 years.
It's one of those amazing summer days in St. George. Especially amazing today because I get to be here in the studio with Paula Dominguez Edwards and her son, Brogan. And I think we're joined in spirit by Paula Dominguez, that wonderful lady. She's still with us, but not able to be here this morning with us in the studio. But today we get to talk about this wonderful institution in St. George, Paula's Cazuela restaurant. And I'm thinking it's actually Pioneer Day today.
Yeah.
The pioneers came to St. George in the 1860s. The Dominguez family came to St. George in the 1960s. And you probably haven't thought of it this way, but you are pioneers. You're pioneers in this community in a really beautiful way, in such a way that you have helped make this community become what it is just by the spirit of that wonderful restaurant. Brogan, it's so great to have you here. And Isla, maybe we could start with you and have you just share with us the story of your family, your mom and dad, Paula and Conrad, and how they came to St. George. And
Okay. Mom and Dad went to school together in a small town in Texas on the Rio Grande Valley, La Feria. If you can roll it off your tongue, it sounds way more romantic. But they went to school together and they were migrants. So they got to know each other very well through that. In the summer times, they would follow the crops. So what happened is they ended up in Logandale, Nevada. And there they met a family of the Windsors, Isla and Scott Windsor, who I was named after. And so Mother, she fell in love. Her mother fell in love with this family. And Mom was actually in Glendale till she was 15, for her teens, I guess it would be. So she knew the area. Dad knew the area. So back in Texas, after Mom and Dad got married, and me and my brother were born, times were really hard and they just couldn't make it. So Father moved us to Vail. My Aunt Nana and Uncle Wedo were already there, and we moved to Vail in 1963. I was 2 years old. My brother was 4 years old. We didn't speak a word. Well, I didn't speak, but he didn't speak a word of English. And we just remember the locals in Vail that my brother would go around and say he wanted a pepino, which is a cucumber. And for some reason that has still stuck. But nobody had the flavor of the Rio Grande Valley. So when Mother started making tortillas and cooking at the Desert Kitchen, years way back though, I remember the cheese enchiladas.
And the Desert Kitchen was out on the east end of St. George Boulevard?
Yeah, it was right off. Well, it was the old freeway then, so it was the first thing you'd hit when you'd come into St. George, up on the hill.
Yeah.
So Mom started making tortillas for people, and the flavors just kind of took off, and it led to a restaurant.
If we go back, so it was your aunt and uncle who came here first?
Aunt Nana was here first.
Nana, and they were in Vail. What brought them here?
The migrants, they love the area. They love the area. For my Uncle Wedo and for my father, it was the culture difference. I mean, you could hunt. I mean, the land, the beauty of it all. And Dad was very adventurous, so he was all over the countryside. And Mother was just, people just gravitate to Mom. They just do. So she made lots of wonderful friends. And
Now, you mentioned when they first got here, they didn't speak much English.
me and my brother did not. Mom and Dad were fluent in English.
Your parents were fluent. They grew up in
Texas, yes.
Did you speak Spanish in your home as you were growing up?
She never did. Mom and Dad never did. They didn't want us to have the struggles. That they felt that we were already going to have some challenges.
And were there struggles, I mean, for them as they came here?
I remember Mom and Dad being very particular about certain things so that we could avoid any kind of, I guess, when somebody categorizes.
Label.
Yeah, because there were no Hispanics, just us. There was just us until about 1977, where my brother and I were.
And that's part of what I mean when I say you guys were pioneers. Mm-hmm. You came to a new place and started something really awesome. And your mom and dad really are, among their generation here in St. George, they're legendary. I mean, their stories are as much a part of this community as anyone's. And how do you think that was possible for them to come here and to become part of this culture, part of this community?
I think integrity and hard work. You know, I really believe in that. I believe that they were people that you could trust and that people know that. And the community, it was wonderful growing up in St. George. When they say it takes a community, a village, and you're a child, it really did. You know, everybody looked out for everybody.
Which elementary school did you go to?
It was, was it the West House?
I'm sure it would have been West.
Yeah.
And then you went to Woodward?
To Woodward.
Woodward Junior High.
And then from there to Dixie. Yeah.
You're a Dixie High School alum.
Yes, yes.
And that's so great to think about that transition that your family made. And then to think, you've mentioned about your mom and how she began to become involved in food and restaurant business. Your dad became involved in law enforcement and in all kinds of things in the community. Tell us about that.
Dad, like I said, he loved the countryside, and he was very much involved in the search and rescue back then. So he would go and he would help the community that way. And the law enforcement, he started as a jailer. He did odd jobs before then, and then he started at the jail when it was just that little shack off of Main Street is where he worked, and he built his way up to becoming a detective. It seems that when I talked to the locals that he was a fair man, and he was a just man, and I hear nothing but, other than if he gave you a ticket. He wasn't really involved in the restaurant as far as the kitchen work, but he was there.
I remember seeing him there many, many times when we've been to the restaurant. Yeah. And I always had that sense that he was there to support your mom in any way he could. And
he took care of the outside really well.
Yeah.
And tell us about that, Brogan.
I don't know how he did it, because before lithium batteries and power tools, I remember growing up, he'd be out there with his shirt half unbuttoned, with his cowboy hat, and he'd have a saw cutting those oleanders one limited time, straight as it. And I mean, there's 30 oleander bushes up there, and I'm doing it with a hedge trimmer, and I can't keep up with it. So he was a hard worker.
That's great.
Yeah, he did all the maintenance.
Yeah, he did.
Brogan, while we're on your grandma and grandpa, tell us your thoughts and your memories of them. Obviously, your grandma is still with us.
Yeah.
But we lost your grandpa
November 13th last year.
Just in the past year.
On my wedding anniversary.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. My wedding anniversary was the best and worst day of my life.
Oh, gosh. Well, when you say it was the worst day, you must have had a wonderful relationship.
Yeah, my grandpa was my father. So he was always, he was my constant. Uh-huh. He was always kind and there, even when I didn't deserve it. So, yeah, he was great.
He was great.
And, I mean, still, when I meet anybody, they're like, yeah, I knew your grandpa. He did this for me, or he did this for me, or he let me get away with this a couple times. Or, you know, everybody always just has wonderful things to say about him because he was a wonderful man.
And that's what I was getting at earlier, is that your grandma and grandpa just truly became an integral part of this community, beloved.
And they showed up.
They showed up.
They showed up. They did the Dixie Roundup. They did any kind of
The Elks.
rodeo, the fair, the Elks, the Lions. They were a part of, and that's what made the whole thing possible, the restaurant. Because, I mean, anybody can open up a restaurant, but to really create what they created takes a lifetime of cultivation with friends and family. You know what I mean? They didn't have the capital to do anything like that. It was presented to them for people that they had helped. So it's a beautiful story.
Tell us more about that story. Isla, we got to the Desert Kitchen, and your mom was making tortillas, and she was helping this little isolated community become familiar with the new cuisine that they weren't familiar with. How did that evolve? How did it grow?
Well, she was cooking at Desert Kitchen for Sue Cannon, and she did that for a long time. Mom worked odd jobs, but when she was presented with the opportunity for the restaurant, there wasn't anything available. So we made all of our own tortillas. Mom would make the flour, and she would make her little patties, and she would roll them. I was 12. My brother was 13. That was in 74. And we still, to this day, cook our beans fresh, you know, for the refried beans. And it was a lot of work, but she would do the corn tortillas and the flour tortillas. We were open 5 days. We cleaned on Sundays, and on Mondays we did tortillas. So my brother and I would lay the tortillas out and dry them and stack them in 24 packages. You had to make sure you didn't bend any of the corners, because then you couldn't use it for a taco. And that's all we had was enchiladas and tacos. There was like 3 things on the menu. And that was in Washington. Not many people know that we started in Washington before we moved on the hill in St. George. But it was interesting because Dad would come by. He was a police officer. He would come by and mash the beans for us because we were just too small to do it at that time. But everything by hand. The corn tortillas, the Miller brothers, Verl Millen and his brother, they took an old washing machine stand and the wringer, the handle, and they built a funnel, and then they made a blade. And Mom would put the masa in top of that and crank that handle, and it'd come out with the most beautiful corn tortilla.
Talk about innovation.
We still have that.
Do you really?
It's in the garage.
And it was the Millen brothers that built that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now there's a great story.
The ingenuity is impressive.
But when things got started, I remember this very, very clearly, and the big companies started to show up. You know, when they started to ask questions about the sauces and things that Mom was making, and somebody wanted the recipe, and Father said, "What are you talking about? You cannot give that recipe out." You know, Mom didn't know any better because nobody had ever, you know, she wasn't trained or anything. But even from Salt Lake, Mother was actually Woman of the Year 11 years in a row, and Restaurant 11 years in a row. There was just nothing like what she had created.
And all of that came from her heritage. Did she grew up learning those recipes?
My grandfather, he was a constable on the Mexico-Texas border, because La Feria is less than 20 miles from the border, from the Rio Grande. He must have been a tough guy. But, yeah, he cooked a lot. Well, so did her sisters.
So she brought most of that just with her in her own mind.
Yeah, the paprika and the chili powder and, you know, all that garlic. And it was just a different, for us, the Southern Utah cooking was what was amazing.
You got introduced to
Yeah.
to a new cuisine as well.
But I was a small child, and Father taught we would use the tortillas like spoons. And he took me to a restaurant, I remember, and he says, "No, mija, you have to use the fork and the spoon. You can't use the tortilla here."
Well, Isla, so you were key through the kind of the middle part of all of this history, and we'll talk more about that. But then now it's come to a third generation with your son, Brogan. And so, Brogan, as your mom talks about your grandma and what she brought to this, how much of that is still part of who and what Paula's is today?
It's literally the foundation of Paula's. I say all the time, as long as they keep coming in, we'll keep the doors open, right? And we've been blessed that way. Yeah, we just love what we have.
Those same recipes, those same, the taste, the flavors, that can still be traced back.
Oh no, we are still making the enchilada sauce in the same, to the teaspoon and the same method. We're making the enchilada sauce. I make the enchilada sauce. I still make the salsa fresh every week, the original recipe. And spices have changed, companies have changed, but our methods have stayed the same. So we take pride in that,
That is so amazing. And we're talking 50 years here. 50 years. We're talking a half century. And that, that's phenomenal when you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Is there any other restaurant in St. George that...
We actually had this conversation last night. We know Tom's Deli has been in St. George since 78.
They opened after us.
There was Frost Stop, and unfortunately that didn't stand the test of time. And then Pizza Factory, but they came after us as well.
Yeah.
And you guys are delicious, by the way. We just ate there.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I have to share this because a few weeks ago we had Bill Randall and the folks from Pizza Factory, and we had that visit. And then afterwards I went. My parents are 93 years old, and I went to visit my parents, and they said, "Let's go eat." And I said, "Where do you want to go?" And they said, "Paula's." So I did the Pizza Factory interview during the day, and that evening we ate at Paula's. So
filled with food all day, huh?
Filled with this great heritage of these few restaurants that have stood the test of time.
Yeah, St. George has changed. It's been interesting to watch the expansion of it and the companies that have came in, and there's a lot of places to eat.
There sure are, but there are people in St. George who, like my parents, when it's time to go, we're going to Paula's.
And we thank you and we love you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
My parents celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary last November, and where did we celebrate, Ricky?
You came to Paula's? Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
We love things like that when people come in and we get to hear the stories.
Well, Isla, we wouldn't still be here. I say we. Paula's wouldn't still be here if not for you bridging from your mom to the next generation. Tell us about those years.
Oh, goodness. After 50 years of business, you kind of learn the ups, the downs. You learn to not let the criticism bother you, that's for sure. Yeah. But Paula's has never changed. It's the town around us has, and we've always been able to adjust. But we kept everything the same. So I feel like that's a good thing in this day and age.
It is. It's good to know that you can count on something.
Yeah.
Right.
But when we moved in from Washington to St. George, business was booming. It was a beautiful restaurant. Warren Hanning, he built the building for Mother to code what she needed, and she rented from him. And then Father found this piece of property, and that's when he said it's time to do our own thing. And so then we went to the building that we're at now. Yeah. on North Bluff, across from the park.
Slightly up the hill and to your left into the parking lot.
But the enchilada sauce, enchilada style, that was Mother. And that's nationwide. That's worldwide. Mother was the first enchilada style. She was the first chimichanga. She was all of that. She was all of that. When I think of that, it amazes me.
That is really awesome, really amazing. And your mom was there from the beginning, and in a sense is still there.
She's still there. She's still there.
How often is she on site?
She's the only person who can tell me what to do. She says, whenever I argue with her, she says, "Whose name is on the hill?"
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So kind of a timeline, Grandma and Grandpa, of course, they've always been the overseers, but my mom and my uncle, they took over for, how many years would you say? Off and on. He was doing it, you were doing it, you both were doing it.
Whatever had to be done. Yeah, probably 20 years of it.
Yeah.
But we had great people working with us, too.
Yes.
You know, and
the
great
Cayases.
people, the Cayases.
Well, let's talk about some of the folks that have been there for a lot of years with you. Can you share some?
Jamie Scarchino, she's been off and on as long as it's been open. She's our front manager. She handles all the servers and bussers and some of the tedious things.
She moved into the community when we were in junior high school. And her and I think we were in 7th grade, 6th or 7th grade. And that was just before we opened. And her brother, Troy.
Yeah, Troy.
He was with us.
Yeah, Troy, and he's not working there anymore, but he did everything.
Great people.
And then we've got Susie Hardy. She's been with us the whole time.
The whole time.
Well, she started babysitting for me.
Yeah, she used to babysit me. Yeah, she's awesome. We have Luann Hardy, her sister-in-law. I got to say Luann because we love Luann.
I mean, that says so much. When people have been with you a half century. Mm-hmm. I mean, where does that happen?
Right. Who stays open a half century? Yeah, amazing people. We couldn't do it without the friends. And I mean, they're not even friends. They're family at this point. You know what I mean? They're good people.
I have a hard time imagining how hard you work. As we were coming in the studio today, Brogan's out on his phone talking to suppliers or whatever it might have been. Yeah, I mean, it's a 24/7.
I equate it to a contractor that actually has to get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
We work hard, but we don't know any other way.
It's how you grew up.
It's our baseline, yeah. You do what has to be done, right? And that's...
It's a combination of hard work, but also being a wonderful host. I mean, the customer service. There's all this hard work behind the scenes, but then you have to come out with a smile.
Yeah, that's where my wife's a server there as well. And she has the memory of an elephant and remembers who is who and everything. So she's really good with those.
And when you talk about people who have worked with you all through the years, there's also all the community people who have come to your restaurant all through the years. And I know that I never walk into Paula's without seeing somebody that maybe I haven't seen for a while, but I have the feeling that when I walk in, I know I'm going to see somebody special. And I know it's that way with my dad because my dad can't get out of there once he gets in because everybody's coming to talk to him and we pretty much have to drag him out. But it's just such a neat thing to be able to walk into a place where you feel comfortable and you feel welcome and you feel friendship all around you. And on top of all that, wonderful food, great food. So I think that's really the story here, at least in my mind, is this family that comes to St. George and makes such a huge difference in this community in so many ways.
The American dream. Mom and Dad lived the American dream. Mm-hmm. Hard work. You can build something. And they did it.
Yeah.
And the world's so crazy right now. It's nice to be able to reflect on something that's positive and beautiful and that you can really count on. So, and that's Paula's.
Yes, it really is. I think of Paula, and I really do wish she were here today, but the two of you have painted such a beautiful picture of all of this. But tell me, if she were sitting right here, what would she be telling me? What would she be saying?
She would be telling you how hard they worked. She would be telling you that they came from nothing and they made it happen. And
on the other side of that, she'd be saying how grateful she was for how the community embraced her when they got here.
correct.
Because if it wasn't for all the people that pitched in and helped or funded in some capacity, it would have never happened. St. George is an amazing place.
Can you define that a little further, Brogan?
Well, it's a community. St. George is a special place. It's expanding and it's changing and it's growing a little bit quicker than I would like, but you don't just call it home. It's a place where people come together and it's love. You know what I mean? So that's how I felt.
Wow. You defined that perfectly. I know there are many things we could talk about, and always in these podcasts, so once we're finished and we go on our way, we think, oh, I could have shared this, or I should have said that. But I think that what you've shared today really brings together this beautiful story of your family and of a business and of a contribution to a community that's really, really special. Mm-hmm. I appreciate both of you being here today, and I hope
Thanks
you'll give Paula my best.
Oh,
will.
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
And hope to see her again sometime at the restaurant. And you, Brogan, my goodness, you're working hard.
Yep.
50 years, and are we going to do 50 more? Is that the plan?
That's what I said on the St. George News article. Like I said, as long as they keep coming, we'll keep the doors open.
Are there more generations coming?
I have twin sons that are 14, and they're actually just started dishwashing this year.
Okay.
So they are in the pit, as we call it, already asking what they got to do to cook because they don't want to do dishes anymore.
That's great incentive to move on.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, and I say your employment will match your grades. So I still want a high school education, but
That's great.
But all the grandkids actually have,
yeah, my sister's kids have all worked there except for Colton,
right?
but he's next.
My other two in high school, they worked there.
Yeah, they.
So,
One actually was a server for a little while.
Yeah.
And she was really good.
yeah.
So that's,
She knew what she didn't want to do when she graduated, so then she got an education.
yeah.
Definitely, yeah. But
great.
anyway.
Well, Isla and Brogan, this has been just a wonderful hour together. And just on behalf of all of the community, thank you for what you and your family and your awesome business mean to this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Doc Booth Foundation is dedicated to empowering individuals through educational opportunities and promoting mental health advocacy. Through scholarships and funding for important community needs, the foundation perpetuates the can-do spirit of the founders of this community, using the lessons of the past to chart the course for a better future. Make your tax-deductible donation at docboothfoundation.org. Not Forgotten is produced by Ricky Valadez and made possible by the generous support of St. George Area Zag Stores, industry-leading tech support and accessories. Lyman Hafen's books can be found at lymanhafen.com.
Once I lived in Cottonwood,
and owned a little farm. When they called me down to Dixie, it caused me much alarm. To hoe the cane and cotton, I right away must go. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know. We came to Dixie, and we called it home. Oh, in Dixie, we've lived and grown. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know. The hot winds whirl around me and take away my breath. I've had the chills and fever till I'm nearly shook to death. All earthly tribulations are but a moment here. And oh, if I prove faithful, a righteous crown I'll wear. We came to Dixie, and we called it home. Oh, in Dixie, we've lived and grown. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know. I hope that there's a heaven with rivers pure and clean. But I know that there are others who'll come here after me. Though I